All right, everybody, so we are going to start going over this genetics problems worksheet. I'm going to start with number 1 and move through. The first question is Aurora and Ryan are expecting a child. Aurora has dark eyes and Ryan has light eyes. Is there any way that their child could have light eyes, even if light is recessive to dark? Hint, Aurora's mother has light eyes. If Aurora's mother, so let's go ahead and start. We're going to use the letter E here. So it says that light eyes is recessive to dark. So we know that E, so I'm using the letter E here for the allele. So we would say light eyes would be the lowercase allele, and then dark eyes would be the capital E. All right, if Aurora's mother had light eyes, she would have been the genotype EE, right? So Aurora has to be, for Aurora to have dark eyes and her mother was EE, Aurora's genotype has to be EE. All right, and Ryan has light eyes, so he's got to be EE. All right, so now it says, is there any way their child could have light eyes? Okay, so let's take a look. You want to set up a test cross. We're going to do Aurora versus Ryan. All right, so remember we're going to split these up. So this is my genotype. Remember, Aurora is only going to give one allele in each of her eggs. So if this is representing a gamete, that's an egg, it's a possibility, and this is a possibility, right, for Aurora. Ryan only has recessive alleles, so he's only ever going to be able to contribute E's. So this would be Ryan here. That's Ryan, and that's Ryan as well. So if they have this child, it's going to be capital E, lowercase e, capital E, lowercase e. These two together make 2 lowercase e's, and then here 2 lowercase e's. So let's analyze this. They have a 50% chance of having a dark-eyed child and a 50% chance of having a light-eyed child. So that's what you want to write. There's a 50%. So the answer is yes, they could have a light-eyed child. 50% chance of having light eyes. And that is question number 1 on your worksheet here. All right, so we're moving on to question number 2. The question says, Tom and his wife Julie are both carriers of cystic fibrosis, an autosomal recessive disease. What is the chance that their first child will have cystic fibrosis or is a carrier? So we want to look at here, what's the chances of having the first child with cystic fibrosis, or what's the chances of having a child that's a carrier? So let's kind of look at the situation. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use the letter D as my gene, so or my alleles here. So let's look at terminology here. So the gene here is cystic fibrosis. So here we are, cystic. So we're going to use the letter D. So if you have cystic fibrosis, you're going to be autosomal recessive. So you're going to have 2 lowercase d's. So that's going to be your genotype because it says autosomal recessive disease. So you have to have 2 recessive alleles to express cystic fibrosis. If Tom and his wife Julie are both carriers of cystic fibrosis, Tom and his wife, so if you're DD, you do not have cystic fibrosis. And I'm going to abbreviate that CF. And if you are big D, little d, you're heterozygous here, you are a carrier. You carry that recessive allele. That's what that means. You carry it, but you do not express it because you have a dominant allele as well. All right, so if Tom and Julie are both carriers, then that means they're both heterozygous. So we want to do a Punnett square with this. This would be Julie and then Tom's genotype here. So we want to do a Punnett square. So remember, each one is going to contribute one allele. All right, so this one here, big D, big D. Pay attention to your letters when you write them down. Really make sure you emphasize a capitalized letter versus a lowercase letter because sometimes they start to look the same. Big D, little d, and then this last one is going to have two little d's. Okay, so let's again take a look at the question. The question says, what's the chance of having a child with cystic fibrosis? And then what's the probability of having one? You know, that would be a carrier. So let's take a look at that. This child here is definitely going to have cystic fibrosis. So you have a 25% chance of having a child with cystic fibrosis, right? Because you have that DD. Then you have a 50% chance, because there's two of these here, a 50% chance of having a child that's a carrier. All right, so that's question number 2. So moving on to question number 3. This one says, in cattle, a dominant Dexter gene combined with its recessive allele results in an abnormally short legs, while the homozygous dominant condition results in such severe deformities that the fetal calf nearly always dies in utero. If a cow and bull, each heterozygous for the Dexter gene, are mated, what is the chance that they will produce a calf with normal legs? So what I would do here is go through and write down the genotypes and phenotypes first, just to kind of organize the thoughts. So that's what we're going to do here first. And I'm going to go with the letter D here since they're using Dexter. So for this, that's the Dexter, right? That would be Dexter, that would be short legs. And big D will be lethal. And then little d is going to be normal. Does everybody see that? All right, so we're going to do 2 with heterozygous. So heterozygous, remember, will be 2 different alleles. So we do our test cross. And the last one here. So let's see. This one would be lethal, right? So there's one that's lethal. These 2 here would have short legs. And then let's see, it wants to know what is the chance that they will produce normal legs. So here's the one we're looking at. you have 25% chance of producing calf with normal legs. And also, just to kind of put this out here, you don't necessarily have to do 25%. You could say you have a 1 out of 4 as well. Those are the same answers, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes it's easier if you do it in percentage because each block would represent 25%. So 25% would be lethal. Each of these is worth 25, so this would be 50% would be short legs, and then you have the 25%. But again, either answer is fine, so 1/4 or 25%. With normal legs. All right, that's it for number 3. All right, so on to number 4. Denis has light hair and dark eyes, while John has dark hair and dark eyes. The genes for these traits assort independently. Denis is homozygous for hair color, but heterozygous for eye color. John is heterozygous for both. Dark eyes are dominant to blue eyes, and dark hair is dominant to blonde hair. Determine the expected genotype and phenotypes of Denis and John's children, and additionally state the probability the couple will have a dark-haired, blue-eyed child. All right. Again, I would probably start with sorting out what the different genotypes are versus the phenotype, okay? So in this situation, light hair is dominant, is recessive, and dark eyes is dominant. So here, I'm just going to kind of keep track of it. So when we look here, so we're going to go, let's do for hair, let's use H, and for the eye color, let's use E. So big H will be dark hair. So this one would also be dark hair. And this one is light hair. All right, and when it comes to eye color, dark eyes, dark eyes, and then 2 lowercase e's would be light eyes. So let's figure out Denis' genotype. She has light hair and dark eyes. So we know for her to have light hair, she has to be little h. And it says she has dark eyes. Denis is homozygous for hair color, so we got that, but heterozygous for eye color. So she's going to have, she's this one, heterozygous, so 2 different alleles. Big E, little e, okay? Now let's take a look at John. John is heterozygous, right, for both. So he will be, here's John. All right, so this is our start to this problem. Next, we need to do a dihybrid cross. So in order to do that, I'm going to clear all of this, and we're going to do that dihybrid cross. So in order to start this, I want you to remember that we have to sort the gametes out. So let's look at Denis first. Remember, so we're doing H, little h, big E, little e. That's Denis. Cross with John, which is heterozygous. All right, so what we want to do here is separate out the gametes. So for Denis, you need to have a hair gene and an eye gene in all of her eggs. So we're going to go here and then here. And I like to draw circles around them just so I remember that these are eggs, right? And then little h, big E, and then again little h. So you do this so you make sure you have all the possible combinations, okay? All right, let's do the same thing for John. Big H, big E, and then big H, little e. Little h, big E, and then the last one, little h, little e. And again, I want to emphasize and just make sure it makes sense. These are all sperm from John, okay? So I always like to draw them like little sperm. You don't have to do this every time, but just to make it clear, okay? Denis is giving one egg and John will give one sperm. What this picture depicts is it could be any possible combination of any of these. So let's go ahead and get our table. Oh, that didn't turn out so, oh, that didn't look good either. Here we go. Let's do one more here. So what this means, if this sperm here and this egg here were to fuse, this would be the child that we'd get. So we're going to have 16 possible children here. So that's what we want to look at. And to try to somewhat keep this organized, I'm going to do it a different color. All right. And let's go through and fill this out. So I'm just going through to fill this out. Try to make sure you can do this yourself as well. You can even pause this or fast forward through it, or to make sure that you're getting the same table that I'm getting. All right, I'm just going to take a second and look through to make sure everything looks good, and hopefully I haven't made any mistakes by jumbling anything up. So far, so good. And I did make a mistake. Here it is. So it's always a good idea to take a second and look back through, because your eyes can play tricks on you and then you get a wrong answer. So should have been a big E there. And all right, looks like we're all set. All right, from here, we've done half the work, okay? At this point, once you've finished your dihybrid cross, you need to go through and organize your information. I like to do tallies, but it's really kind of up to you how you want to separate out the information. Continuing here with number 4, again, we need to find a way to really organize our thoughts as far as how what are the different possible genotypes and what are the possible phenotypes and how many do we have of each. I like to use a tally system. Again, you don't really have to use my tally system. I just think that it works for me, so it's really up to you as far as how you want to organize your information. So I just start with listing the different ones I have here. And here's that first one. So I'm going to list it, and then there's one of them so far, and then you can mark it out or check mark it or whatever you want to do. Here's the next one. And mark it out. All right. Oh, that wasn't the right one, but I'm going to mark it out over here. We don't have that one written yet. Okay, and then this one's here. And this one isn't written yet. And then this one's here. This one's here. And then who, I guess. And let's see, that one's this one. And all right, so there they are. Now let's look at all the possible, and then from there, I like to write down the different phenotypes. So these are my genotypes, right? Here are my possible genotypes. So we have dark hair, dark eyes. All right, then we have light hair, light eyes. And then you have dark hair, light eyes. And then light hair, dark eyes. All right, now let's go from here. This individual here would have dark hair and dark eyes. So dark hair, dark eyes. There's two there. Okay, so there's two there. So that takes into account for this one. We have dark hair, dark eyes. There's 4 there. So that takes into account. So plus 4 here. And then this one's going to be light hair, dark eyes. Light hair, dark eyes. There's 2. So this is light hair, dark eyes. So plus 4. Okay. This one's going to be dark hair, light eyes. And then light eyes, light hair. So that takes into account for these. So that gives us a whopping total of 6 in that category and 6 in this category. The answer, remember, if we refer back to the question asks us to determine the expected genotypes and phenotypes of Deneen and John's children. So here we are here. So this table here is giving you the expected genotypes, right? And everything that's under the purple headings, those are your phenotypes, okay? It says, additionally state the probability that the couple will have dark-haired, blue-eyed child. So dark hair and light eyes. So what we're doing is looking here. Here is the answer that they're looking for. Okay, the probability is 2 out of 16. So 2 out of 16 or 1/8. Or if you want to put this as a percentage, you're welcome to, but you could leave it, you have a 1/8 chance. So maybe we should toss this into a calculator and give us a percentage. So we have a percent here. Sometimes it's easier to think about probabilities when you think about percentages. So that's about 13% chance. So the couple has a 13% chance of having a child with dark hair and light eyes. All right, so hope that helps. We're going to move on to number 5. We are with number 5. This one is going to be a little wordy, so just kind of keep that in mind. Really, when you get a question like number 5, take a second, read through, and kind of decipher what you're trying to figure out. So here's what I would suggest. So let's read it once, and then let's go through and figure out what the genotype and phenotypes are, just basic genotype and phenotype, and then go from there. So it says, in guinea pigs, the short hair allele, capital H, shows complete dominance over long hair allele. In hair color, on the other hand, it is partial dominant trait in which heterozygous has cream color hair, while homozygous is either white hair or yellow hair. If yellow hair guinea pig is mated with a, that should say white, homozygous short-haired guinea pig, what would be expected? What would be the expected genotype and phenotype of the F1 generation, and in what proportion? So here's what I would do. When you start this problem out, go ahead and write down what are the different, so for one, we're looking at 2 genes here. So we're eventually going to be doing a dihybrid cross, right? Also, we need to we're dealing with something that's got an incomplete dominance. So instead of your heterozygous individual is going to be cream versus being white or yellow. So that's another thing to consider. So here we are. So let's take a look. So we know that HH will be short hair. We know little h, so this heterozygous individual will also have short hair. And little h will have long hair. Okay, so that's our first thought. Now let's come over here and kind of decipher. I'm not a fan of using the letter C, but the problem is already using C, so I'm just going to kind of keep going with that. They put a little prime symbol there just to kind of differentiate between the C's, so hopefully that's helpful. So here we go, C, C, and then this is prime. That's cream. And then, so this is the heterozygous individual. This one here is white. And then this one is yellow. All right, so now let's think about for just a second, what are the 2 genotypes that we're crossing? It says, and I actually wrote it out, it says yellow hair, yellow long hair, crossed with a white homozygous short hair. Okay, so in order to have this one, so in order to be yellow, it's got to be CC, and then to get long hair, it's going to be little h, right? Crossed with white, and I'm not sure why that did that, so let's go back and have some. And then homozygous short. Homozygous short has to be that one there. Capital H, and 2 capital C's. So this is what we're going to be mating these 2 individuals. Okay? So keep that in mind as we proceed through the rest of this problem. And I'm going to delete this and then move this up. All right, so from here, let's take a look. We need to break this up into gametes. So remember with this one, and I'm going to go ahead and change to another color here. We're going to do big C, C prime, little h. C prime, little h. Do you notice how all of these are going to be the same? C prime, little h, C prime, little h. So all of these eggs will be the same. C prime, little h. Okay, so let's take a look at the other one. You have big C, big H. Big C, big H. And it's the same scenario here. All of these are going to be the same. So remember, if this sperm or egg would fertilize with that sperm or egg, then you're going to get, that's what we're using this table for, to figure out what's the probability of getting a certain offspring. All right, so here's our table. So again, so what you're going to get here is you're going to get this in every single column. Do you guys see this? So every one of these is going to be the same because all the gametes on the top are the same and all the gametes across the side are the same. So you can go ahead and fill out your table. I'm going to cheat and copy and paste it. And then once I'm finished doing that, you'll kind of see the outcome. Oh, I have a hot mess here. Let's fix this. See what laziness will get you. A hot mess. And my copying and pasting was probably taking longer than if I actually wrote this out. So if you're getting the idea here, every one of these are the same. If all the gametes across the side and across the top are the same, then all your individuals are going to be the same. So you have all C. So all of them. So here's all of them are going to have the same genotype, and then the phenotype here will be cream, cream with short hair, and that all kind of started to look jumbled. Let's fix it. All right, that's number 5 there. So all right, so here is number 6. Number 6 says, in general, what percentage of human offsprings would be expected to receive an X chromosome from their mother, an X chromosome from their father, and a Y chromosome from their father? Explain briefly. Let me explain first how gender comes to be. So we know that, let's see here, make sure all women are XX, right? So when a woman produces eggs, all her eggs will just have an X in them, right? So all eggs will have X in them. All men are XY. Now, we're saying this very vaguely because remember we talked about some genetic abnormalities in class. We're talking about to assume a normal individual. So a normal woman would have 2 X chromosomes. Now there are situations where a woman may only have 1 X chromosome or whether she has maybe 3. Normally, remember we said if she only has 1 X, then typically they become sterile, so she wouldn't produce more children. But again, in this situation, we're assuming a normal woman and a normal man. So a normal man being a man with only 1 X and then 1 Y here. So here's where the variation comes in. The gender surprise. The man he's either going to produce X sperm or he's going to produce Y. So he's going to produce both, okay? It's just a matter of which one gets to the egg first. So imagine here, you have your sperm, he's producing these sperm. Whichever one arrives to the egg first will determine the gender of the child. So when you're looking at this question for A, an X chromosome from a mother, everyone will get an X chromosome. So that's 100% chance. Okay? For B, all females will get an X chromosome. So it just really depends on how you want to word this one. The question says what percentage of human offspring would, so you could put 50% or you could say something like all women. Or you could say, something like that. Or 50% will get, if you consider the population to be 50% men and 50% women, that's why the question isn't that, it's kind of hard to put percentages for B and C. But I can understand if you write 50% what you're trying to say. So all women will get an X chromosome from their father, where question C, all men will get a Y. So no woman will get a Y chromosome from her father. If she got a Y chromosome, then she would no longer be a woman, she'd be a man. Okay? So this is that question for question number 6. Again, if you want to write a percentage, I would probably go with 50% women and 50% men. But then again, to be honest, writing a percentage for B and C really don't make sense to me. So I would probably just write something like 100% will get, as long as you're getting the idea that 100% of women, or sorry, 100% of the population will get an X chromosome from their mother. The father's the one who determines the gender here. So you want to write something like, all females will receive an X chromosome from their father, and all males will receive a Y chromosome from their father. And that's it. That's question number 6, short and sweet. Here's on to number 7. The Martin family knows of 3 relatives who had kinky hair disease. This is a sex-linked recessive disorder in which a child does not grow, experiences brain degeneration, and dies by the age of 2 years. Affected children have peculiar stubby hair, for which the disorder takes its name. John Martin is hesitant about having children because Joanne Martin is hesitant about having children because her 2 sisters have each had sons who died from kinky hair disease. If Joan is a carrier, what is the chance that her son, that a son of hers, would inherit kinky hair disease? Explain why none of the women in the family have kinky hair disease. Okay, this is perfect following up from question 6. Again, please keep in mind that women only give an X chromosome to their sons, right? They can't, they're only going to, a male is going to have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome, the X in which he gets from his mother and the Y that he gets from his father. Whereas females get an X from their mother and an X from their father. Okay, so what I want you to think about here. What I want you to think about is how to write this one out. Because it says sex-linked recessive trait, I like to think of this, and I'm just going to do a test cross. Remember, if it says, if she's a carrier for it, Joan, I'm going to write it like this. And just put a K. Oh, maybe I should, actually, let's use a different color, because I think that way, because it's going to start looking the same. Okay, so there's Joan. Here's what this means. Remember, she's a female, so she's got XX. It says sex-linked recessive, okay? So this would be the recessive allele here, all right? Joan's husband is a male, and it does not say anything about him carrying it or being affected with it, so we're going to say husband, which we don't know his name, so we're just going to call him husband. We're going to give him XY, right? So if we do a test cross here, I'm going to go ahead and draw this out. And then I'm going to go back in and add that trait, but let's write it out first in blue. And here's that trait. So when you go through to do this test cross, here's XX. These are completely normal, right? Here, everyone in this category, so this daughter, okay, so here's the situation. So here's my test cross. This normal child, normal female, is not a carrier. This is a normal male and is not affected. Now she has, you look here at this situation, she has one daughter that will carry it, okay? But here's the thing about daughters. So this daughter can carry it just like Joan is carrying it, but she has another X chromosome that will mask this recessive allele here. So because she has two X's, anything that's deficient from this X can be masked by this X here. All right. In order for that daughter to possess this trait, she would have to have two. She would have to be this. Okay, which means the dad would have to give it to her as well. But in this particular situation, the children don't live long enough to produce children. So you wouldn't have that. All right, so let's look at what the question asks us. If Joan is a carrier, what is the chance that her son, that a son of hers, would likely inherit the kinky hair disease? So it looks to me, all right, she has a 25% chance. So to answer A here, 25% chance, right? And again, for B, women are only carriers here. Are only carriers. And remember, you have that X-linked trait here that would, mask the presence of this allele here. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, this is a sex-linked recessive disorder. Okay, because it's recessive, this allele here can mask this one, all right, because this right here is your recessive allele. So this guy here is recessive. And this one, that other X there is dominant. It will dominate the and mask the presence of this guy here. That's why that woman, the female here, only carries that, but doesn't express it. All right, here we are, question 8. This one's similar to the last question when we're looking at sex-linked traits. Hairy ears is an unusual sex-linked trait. If Kyle with hairy ears marries Heather with normal ears, what are the expected genotypes and phenotypes of their children? What is the probability that Kyle and Heather will have hairy-eared daughters and hairy-eared sons? Okay, so let's take a look at this. So again, it's sex-linked trait. So what we want to do is go ahead and figure out Kyle and Heather's genotypes. So we know Kyle has got the hairy ears trait. So what we're going to do is, he's XY, right? And we're just going to give him a little H here at the top. And Heather is normal ears. Now, something I want you to notice here, this is on the Y chromosome, okay? Remember, females do not have a Y chromosome. So when you're thinking about this question, it says here, what is the probability that Kyle and Heather will have hairy-eared daughters? It is a trait that's only found on that Y chromosome. Therefore, they should never have daughters that have hairy ears because the daughters will not have a Y chromosome, okay? And we're going to prove that with a test cross. Okay. Okay, so let's do that. So here is Heather. And here is Kyle. And I'm going to go ahead and give him a, let's just carry this with this small h here so we can really keep track of it. So here, females, and then I'll go back in and fill in the h's. All right, so let's take a look. So to answer the questions, let's look at the information. What is the probability that Kyle and Heather will have hairy-eared daughters? They will never have hairy-eared daughters. Oh, let's put the U before the G. Right, that's our first question. And then our second question says, their sons. All the sons that Kyle and Heather have will have hairy ears because that dad is carrying that hairy-eared Y chromosome. Any chromosomes that he ever gives to his son will have that hairy-eared trait on it. So all of Kyle and Heather's sons will have hairy ears. All right. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Again, remember, the Y chromosome is only going to be able to give, the hairy ears here. Our last question, number 9, Dina has been, so we're looking at Dina and trying to figure out her baby's daddy. So Dina has not been very careful and does not know which of her friends is the father of her child. Dina is type A blood, and her baby is type B. The father is one of 3 men, Charlie, who is type O, Joe, who's A, Al, who is type AB. Which one is the father? So in order to start this problem, what I'd really kind of do is probably set up some sort of table just to kind of figure out where to start. So we know, okay, we know she's type A. This is her phenotype, all right? So let's go ahead and write that up here. Phenotype. And that the baby is type B. Now, of the men, we have Charlie, Joe, and Al, right? So we know that Charlie's type O, Joe is type A, and Al is type AB. All right, so that's their phenotypes. Let's go in now and determine what their genotypes could be. Now, she's either going to be AA or AO, right? For type B blood, you either have to be BB or BO. Okay? When it comes to Charlie, he's got one option here. He's OO. For Joe, he's either AA or AO. And then for Al, he's going to be AB. All right? So here's a couple of situations. You probably can eyeball this one right away. It's not always where you can eyeball it, but you can definitely eyeball it in this situation. This baby is type B. All right? There is no way that Charlie or Joe could be the father because they aren't carrying a B. And if this mother is type A, the baby's having to get this B from his father, okay? So Al has to be the dad, all right? And let's do a test cross to prove it. So what I would do is set up 2 crosses. Let's do her, we don't know her genotype. She's either this one or this one, so we're going to set up 2. It doesn't ask you to determine her genotype here, but I think it's a good idea to justify your answer. So here, if we were to do this, this test cross does not produce a B child, all right? But this one does, and let's take a look at it. And then here he is. This is our child right here. We know now that what I'm saying with this is we know that Al's the father, right? And to take this a step further, this question could have very well asked, what's the genotype? What's Deanna's genotype? What's the baby's genotype?
How do you make a swing bigger?
So here we are.
How do you make a swing